So this is part 2 of the video with Jack. Look, we've briefly looked at why Sprift, and of course you can join us on the 25th of October at the birthday meet. It's a panel-led event chaired by Sarah. Well, there's panel. There's also going to be a presentation from Ronald Fletcher Baker solicitors on leasehold enfranchisement, and they've said to me they promise it's going to be exciting as well. So, and I'm sure the panel will be exciting because we've got Jack. Look, we're just going to focus a little bit more about Jack and why this area as well. So over to you. Your focus specifically, not exclusively though, but in the home county.
Yeah, so I try and base and situate myself in the home counties. Over the last few years I have explored other areas. We actually made an acquisition in Birmingham which didn't really go to plan, and when stuff does go wrong you want to be in an area of knowing what you're doing and where it is. So I learned the hard way in that respect, and I've also looked at other areas including north of Oxfordshire. But I try and keep in the home counties, so that's both Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, M40 corridor, M4 corridor into London and West London. The reason I like sticking in that area, first of all, with the recent partnership with Ben Richards, who's an architect, you'd be stupid to work and operate in an area that doesn't hugely benefit from planning uplift. The reason I say planning uplift is because if you look in areas with low pound per square foot values as developments, if you put through planning and get the planning uplift, you're not actually making that much money, where I believe that's the main chunk of the money you're going to earn. Developments, with a rule of thumb, anything you get off market or passively secure, you may get higher values for developments, but as a rule of thumb you tend to get 20% on GDV and 25% on cost if it's an on-market deal. Now with planning uplift it's uncapped, it can be a 10x, it can be a 100x on your investment. Yes, there is an element of risk, but it's a low put-in. So rather than playing, blackjack, you're playing poker. You're playing roulette.
That's the influence of being with Ben as well.
Yeah.
We come to poker, card games. For those of you who don't know, Ben was and still is a very skilled poker player.
Yeah, I believe he was a poker player prior to coming into the more established property. But so bringing back to why I grew up around this area, I know it, and one massive influence on me is I'd like to call now called friend, Nick Carlisle. He basically broke the inertia and talked me into a lot of being a good all-round developer, and that's basically, and he believes that there's deals out there on your doorstep, but you just need to know how to find them. And there's two ways that you can negotiate a deal: on price and on terms, and you can't do both because you won't do many deals, but you can always negotiate one for the other. For example, if a vendor is requiring too much or above market rate or above market value or above GDV end value for their property, what can you adjust on terms? Can you add the uplift and get rid of the risk in planning and then pay them for the property, or vice versa? If there is something that you maybe can negotiate on terms and against the cost, you can maybe pay a lower value for the property. So for example, if we pay you in a week, can we pay you 25% below what you're marketing it at? So there's the main reasons that I look for. That I suppose I got stung a few times before in learning the hard way of
when
exploring.
You say stung, what do you mean exactly?
So with property, it's inevitable that stuff does go wrong, and I believe that your due diligence process and your systemization and your organisation skills are key to minimise, mitigate, and to foresee any problems that may come about. So you've got contingency budgets, you've got people that assess particular elements. For example, I'm bidding on a barn at the moment, and I've had 3 builders' quotes on that barn. And let's say, for example, if it was a single lound-up 4-bed property in the countryside, and I knew that the ground wasn't contaminated, I'd be a lot more confident to bid on my own knowledge. However, because it's a barn and it's got a lot of variables, I got structural survey, I got competitor quotes, I got recommendations from structural surveyors which builders they would use. So rather than me just going headwind and bidding as if it was a property that a plot of land that I'd normally build, more or less assessing what could go wrong and making sure that I'm mitigating that as much as possible, and there's a budget in there to cover that. And that will be put forward in my offer. So I would say the build costs are likely to be this per square foot. This is what I've received from this and this quote. So therefore, this is why my bids come in at this. If you accept a higher bid from someone else, it's either because they want to sit cash or they haven't done the full due diligence process and ask the actual builder what it's going to cost to build, or they may have a slightly different acquiring assets. Reason to do that. Sorry, the waitress just put me off.
But we can easily be put off, and it's about how you stay consistent.
Yeah.
And that's where technology such as Sprift comes into operation as well. We talked about time saving, but if it saves yourself time, that allows you to focus on the things that you should focus on as well.
Yeah, of course. There's key elements of a deal in due diligence that you need to focus and strike off the list first, and Sprift allows you to do that. I mean, we stick on the conservative side of everything, so I believe that we always have almost every eventuality within reason covered. We factor in a slight market dip on our resales values. We have a large contingency if it's an unknown build. We get as many quotes as we can up front. We also cover ourselves in terms of security in the bid, so we do it subject to planning, subject to ground contamination surveys, subject to trial digs, subject to whatever it needs to be. But sometimes that means that we can actually pay more for the property. So again, coming back to the fact that we could pay more on cost, but we're renegotiating the terms.
Jack, I just want to get one thing across in this video, which I have to admit, maybe I've forgotten or maybe I didn't know, so I hold my hands up. I knew Crossrail went to Maidenhead. I'm sure it goes to Maidenhead. However, I never knew it went to Reading as well. So this morning my journey, literally walked through the Olympic Park. I took a local bus part of the way, but next to the Olympic Park, to the Stratford International, walked through the centre, and then hopped onto the Crossrail. So there's already Crossrail trains in operation. It's not the Crossrail line though, which people expected yet. So they say it's 2019. I'm not guaranteeing it. I leave that to the politicians to do. However, you were saying it does go to Reading, Jack, yeah?
Yeah, I believe the infrastructure that Reading's putting as a train, like for example, if I go into London and someone from East London's met me in Euston, I can get there quicker. And it's a funny perceived moment when people come from Clapham or East London or you know, wherever around London. I can tend to get there just as quick. I think the beauty of this area is that there's a new train station that's gone in Reading, and I think it's tripled the size. It looks like an airport now. And there's also good infrastructure from Green Park, which is a large commercial area, getting transportation into Reading. And I think that's partly because of Microsoft having a big influence and a massive blue chip company so close to Reading. And I suppose what really attracts me to Reading, Oxfordshire, Berkshire, and I grew up in Henley, is because if I said to you, find land in the centre of London to achieve £800 a square foot, you would find it very difficult to find land. If I said to you, find land in Oxfordshire, it's obviously going to be 100 times easier, and the pound per square foot is sometimes £800 also in London, in Oxford, in comparison to London. So it's realising the value of land, planning, and getting the planning uplift there, but then also I'm close to home when I want to develop stuff out.
So look, I know there's lots of questions you've got, and the best place to ask those questions is next week. So join myself, join Jack, Yacht. You've got Rupert as well. So Toby's put an amazing lineup of panelists together. So huge thanks for Toby doing that, and huge thanks to my co-host for being involved still, Lou Camel, who does a sterling job. So as I say, huge thanks to my sponsors as well, Ronald Fletcher Baker, Proud of Us, and Connection. That's it for the moment. I know there's going to be a lot more questions. Underneath the video I will be adding a description of how to, or link how to book for the event. But I'm sure there's also a website which Jack can add to the link as well, so you can find out more about what Jack's doing. So huge thanks, and thank you, Jack, as well.
Thank you very much, Brendan.